Welcome to the channel. This is Oblivion, and in today's video we go over the ultimate Galeforce tier list. That's right, I have ranked 116 heroes from SSS all the way down to E. I did not include every single hero who can Galeforce on the list, as then I would have to include every melee unit except for dragons, and also just because a unit isn't high on the tier list doesn't mean they are a bad Galeforcer. It just means they are lacking some key abilities to make them excellent ones. The heroes on this list can all Galeforce. This means units like these, who are excellent on Galeforce teams but do not technically Galeforce, will not be on the tier list. But if you are building a Galeforce team, make sure to consider these units, as they can offer a myriad of support, from acting as Wings of Mercy beacons, to double dances, to even offering special cooldown. You may be thinking, how did you rank these heroes? And what I did was create a point system based off some conditions. As you can see, I created a list of conditions that were desirable in a Galeforce unit, and assigned each of them a value. So let's quickly go over the conditions. The first condition is if special cooldown is built into the weapon, as hitting a 4 cooldown Galeforce is much easier than 5. Second, we have Time Pulse, but only if the cooldown helps make Galeforce easier to proc, so if it takes it from 5 to 4, but 4 to 3 really doesn't help much. 3, we have Special Acceleration, so if they have something like Heavy Blade or Flashing Blade built into their weapon. Under that, we also have Guaranteed Special Acceleration, which means there's no check attached to it, something like Special Fighter. 4, Anti-Guard, the half of tempo we really care about, as Guard can really ruin Galeforce trains. 5, no follow-up, because a lot of times you're going to need that follow-up attack to actually proc Galeforce. 6, if the unit is an offensive mythic, as Galeforce is a strategy mostly used in ether raids, so having a mythic as one of your Galeforce units saves you a team slot, which is massive. 7, 3 movement, as a lot of times your engagement unit is going to want a ton of movement, as it just makes it easier to engage, and even after Galeforcing, sometimes it will allow you to reach units that you really need to hit. 8, flying mobility, as some of the maps do have annoying things like trees, which can make it difficult to Galeforce. 9, Canto, positioning after Galeforce is massive. It can allow other Wings of Mercy units to come in, and just makes it much easier to clear. 10, an attack bonus in your weapon, but only if they're reliant on Heavy Blade. 11, an attack penalty on the foe, but only if they're reliant on Heavy Blade. 12, a speed bonus, but only if they're reliant on Flashing Blade. 13, a speed penalty on foe, but only if they're reliant on Flashing Blade. 14, a guaranteed follow-up attack. 15, infantry pulse, but only if the unit can realistically fit it into their kit without damaging their own cooldown, though I won't be considering HP as much, as it is easy to HP stack on offense. Then we have number 16, the Oblivion bonus. So this one might seem a bit weird, but essentially there's a lot of units in the game who have unique features about themselves, either in their preference weapon or their preference skill, that help Galeforce a ton. So I couldn't really make a single condition for that. Instead, there will be this Oblivion bonus, and this will give a varying amount of points depending on how powerful that effect is. There can also be minus points here, is if there's something that can keep the unit from being a good Galeforcer. Just because the unit can use a trace or flow skill doesn't mean they'll be getting the no follow-up or Canto bonus, as it will depend on their build and how you're using them on your Galeforce team, so in most situations they will not be getting those points. But that is something to consider when you're building your team. The last thing before we start is that I will not be going into detail for every single unit and how they scored, because we would be here for like 5 hours. So instead, I will be only focusing on key units in the C, D, and E tier, and then we'll jump into more detailed analysis for units in the B to SSS tier. So let's get started. Our first tier is going to be the E tier. These units can Galeforce, and they can do it okay, but they often lack a lot of abilities that help out. Or they may have some abilities that detract from their ability to Galeforce, like Rayson or Leanne, who have that healing that can often mess up Galeforces. But overall, these units can Galeforce quite well, and you can make use of them if they're your favorite or you just want to. After that, we have the D tier. And D tier, as you can see, has some very powerful units in here. We have units like Legendary Dimitri, Duo Ike, and Legendary Sigurd. These are all units that can Galeforce pretty well, and this is the tier where really you can make these units work well on any team, but they are going to have some conditions that can kind of make it difficult to Galeforce. For example, Legendary Dimitri does have that special cooldown built into his weapon, and he is very powerful, but he doesn't have anything that gets past guard, he doesn't have no follow-up or things like that, and those things can really hold him back. On the other hand, we have something like Legendary Sigurd, who can Galeforce, but then you're losing out on Holy Knight Aura, which is really what makes him powerful. But the one unit I really want to discuss in this tier is Legendary Hector, as he can not only be a Galeforcer, but a very powerful support. Ostius Pulse 2 can allow him to pulse down any type of unit as long as you're being that tactic condition, which is amazing. But the biggest problem is Hector can struggle to get into range to Galeforce, as he's really reliant on Bold Fighter to get the Galeforce procs that he needs, which means he can't run Wings of Mercy. One of the best ways I find to use Legendary Hector is usually as a smite bot with like armored boots or something like that, which that way you're still getting the cooldown and he's still helping out the team, even though he isn't really Galeforcing himself. Next, we have the C tier. So everyone in the C tier scored 6 points, and you can see there's some very great units in here, like Legendary Elgard, like a lot of the Dancers, as well as great units like Ephraim, Duo Ephraim, and Jill. There's one archetype and one unit I really want to discuss in this tier. First, let's talk about Sylvia. So Sylvia is an example of a Galeforce dancer. She can do a lot of great things for your team. Not only can she Galeforce, but she can also dance after Galeforcing, which is amazing. And because of that high HP stat, she can even run infantry pulse, making it much easier for all the rest of your team to Galeforce as well. Really an excellent unit. And also, if you want to build her up, it's very cheap as she is a free-to-play dancer. You can also use your favorite dancer if you want to do that as well. Units like Olivia can do just as well. Next, we have to talk about Legendary Elgard, and she's all the way down in C tier. I know some people are going to get mad that I can think of right now, but the thing is with Legendary Elgard is that she's definitely lacking on some things. While she is one of the only units who can have 3 action Galeforce, she really struggles as an armor unit to get in there to start the Galeforce train. Because she has to run Raging Storm, that means she can't run Wings of Mercy, which means she has to be the one that initiates, and she can struggle to do that. Now there is something like Assault Tree that can help her out a ton, but if you're running that, you also are sacrificing a Summer Elgard, who in my opinion is just much better, so it's really not the best fodder unless you're just a Leviathan. The other thing she can really struggle with is actually killing enemies, because she doesn't really have a great way to have a guaranteed follow-up attack. She does get it against Dragons and Beasts, but that's pretty much it. So a lot of times you aren't getting the full value of your actions with Legendary Elgard, which can be really difficult. So unfortunately, she's going to have to be stuck in C tier. Okay, now we've hit B tier, and this is where some of the most powerful Galeforce units really rely, and even though there are more powerful units higher on this tier list, these units are all amazing Galeforcers, and you should definitely consider them. Let's start with Dancer Berkut. Now, Dancer Berkut is amazing, but one big problem is that he is seasonal, but when you look past that, he's actually amazing. He can run something like Its Curtains to give him that special cooldown, while also running Time's Pulse to get his Galeforce down to 2 cooldown, which just makes him a very reliable Galeforce dancer. He can go in, one tap, get the Galeforce, and then also dance another unit, which just makes him very valuable on a team. After that, we have Legendary Leaf, our first ranged Galeforce unit, and Legendary Leaf is a monster. He has fallen off a bit since his release, but even so, he's still a great unit. The biggest problem with him is that he is a water legendary, so you can only use him during water season, but even so, he can do some really cool things. First of all, he has 3 movement and range, so he can go in, tap somebody, get that Galeforce, and then destroy somebody else as well. He can even act as a really good Wings of Mercy beacon, and if you want to, you can run S-Strink on him as well, giving him that +1 special cooldown, making it even easier to activate that 3 cooldown Galeforce. Our next units are the Byleth, so this will count as both male Byleth and female Byleth, and Creator Sword is one amazing weapon for Galeforce. It just has pretty much everything you can want. It has cooldown reduction, it has no follow-up, it has anti-guard, and if you want to, you can even stack up his HP in a good way to give out infantry pulse support. So Byleth really is the full package and is an amazing Galeforcer. And I'm looking forward to see what kind of refine they get, because they can just go from B tier all the way up to triple S with just how much power this weapon already has. Next up, we have one of our first beast units, New Year's Valoria. And New Year's Valoria is a great unit. She has cooldown reduction built into her weapon. She has guaranteed special acceleration for not only herself, but also her partner. But the biggest problem with New Year's Valoria when she's down in B tier is because she's going to have a negative Oblivion bonus. The way her weapon essentially works is that she needs to be in range of her partner to get that special acceleration, and her partner needs to be in the range of her to get that special acceleration, which means that it's very difficult to actually activate. You're going to usually have Valoria go in with Wings of Mercy. She's not going to have the special acceleration, so she's going to have to run something like Flashing Blade or Heavy Blade to get it, and then her ally can come in and have it, or her ally can go in with like Flashing or Heavy Blade and do it, and then she can come in with the special acceleration. The fact that you can't get special acceleration on them both very easily is a big problem, and it really holds her back from being one of the best Galeforce supports in the game. After that, we have Legendary Ephraim, one of the OG Galeforcers, such an amazing unit who got an amazing remix and refund. So Legendary Ephraim has a lot of things going for him. He has 3 movement, he has Cantoed, he has a guaranteed follow-up attack, he has guaranteed special acceleration, and he has anti-guard, all in this kit. The only thing that really keeps Legendary Ephraim from being one of the best Galeforcers in the game, unfortunately he has some healing in his preference skill, which can make it difficult for him to be the engagement unit, as a lot of times he'll heal out of Wings of Mercy range. He also doesn't have cooldown built in his weapon, so you're going to have to run Quicken Pulse on him, and both those factors keep him from hitting his max potential and keep him in the B tier. Next up, we have Nyla, and this is OG Nyla, and she is amazing. She has cooldown built into her weapon. The refined infantry beast weapons give her anti-guard. She has Canto. She gets a speed bonus that helps her hit that Flashing Blade check. But most importantly, she has Glare as a preference skill, and Glare is extremely powerful. What you can do is you can go in, get the Galeforce off, you can hit some opponents, and cause gravity on the allies around them and on themselves, and then cancel out of the way so they can no longer reach you. And this allows for some really insane Galeforce plays. The biggest problem with this is it just requires a lot of strategy and thinking, so it's not the easiest thing to pull off. But even so, Nyla is an amazing unit. The only other downside is that she has healing built into her weapon, so if you did want to use her as an engagement unit, that is going to be a negative against that. We have another Laguz Royal, Pirate Nysala. He has cooldown on his weapon, he has no follow-up, he has 3 movement, he has flying mobility, and he can even attack before the foe. All these things can make him a very powerful Galeforce unit. The biggest problem with the Pirate Nysala is going to be getting him into that Wings of Mercy range so that he can act as the Wings of Mercy beacon. So you're often going to be reliant on units like Winter Burnie to do that, or like a Lightning Trap, which isn't always consistent. Next up, we have a Grail unit, Marissa, and Marissa got an amazing refine for Shamshir. It has cooldown reduction built into the weapon, it has Times Pulse built into the weapon, you can run Times Pulse on Marissa, and she even gets a speed bonus to make that flashing blade check even easier. This allows Marissa to be a very consistent, free-to-play Galeforce unit, and if she's one of your favorites, she's definitely worth building. Speaking of Grail units, we have Navarre, the OG Galeforce unit. And Navarre actually is still an amazing unit, though he is going to require a bit more investment as his stats are a bit lacking nowadays. Navarre has that cool Its Currents effect built into his weapon, alongside cooldown reduction, and he can run Times Pulse, which means you can get his Galeforce down to 1 charge, which means he doesn't even need to run a special acceleration skill, which is a big upside. After that, we have Carla, and Carla has cooldown reduction, speed bonus, true damage, no follow-up, and she can run Infantry Pulse. So this unit really is extremely powerful, she Galeforces extremely consistently, and she can offer some support to the infantry units on her team. Once again, we have some more Laguz Royals, and first we have OG Tiburn, and Tiburn just got refined, and it really is quite powerful. He can be an amazing flying engagement unit with that guaranteed special acceleration and guaranteed follow-up attack. The only downside is he doesn't have special cooldown reduction in his weapon, so you're probably going to have to run Quicken Pulse or have some other way like Bride Raphael or Duo Crawl. Speaking of Tiburn, let's talk about his Pirate ult, and his Pirate version was built to Galeforce. He has cooldown reduction in his weapon over normal Tiburn. He also has everything else normal Tiburn has. He has attack bonuses and attack penalties, making it really easy to hit that heavy blade check, which can make him an amazing engagement unit. Next up, we have another Dancer, Dancer Eldigan. This one is going to be a free-to-play Grail unit, so that is amazing. He also has that flying mobility, but he still can run that Its Currents build. Unfortunately, he doesn't have access to Times Pulse, which will make it a bit more difficult to get his Galeforce off, but even so, he's an amazing Dancer to have on your Galeforce team. Now let's talk about the first mythic we're going to be discussing, Dagger. And Dagger is just a phenomenal unit. Not only is she a mythic, which means she's helping with your scoring and not taking up one of your other slots, she also has some great effects on her. If you don't want to use her with the Wings of Mercy build, she has no follow-up built into her weapon. She has the Unity effect, so she can soak chills extremely well and actually get advantages from that. And she has access to Times Pulse. And that's not even discussing Pathfinder, which can often help with engagements as well. The last unit we have in B tier is Bride Raphael, and in all honesty, he's only this low because we're looking at him as a Galeforce unit and not as the amazing support he really is. Bride Raphael is phenomenal as he can give his partner cooldown reduction, which is very important to activate Galeforce. Not only that, he is a Dancer, which is just amazing. If we're looking at him as a support unit, he's literally one of the best dancing supports you can have on a Galeforce team. But as a Galeforce unit, he can struggle to actually get that off. You're going to need some big investment and some really powerful skills on him so he can actually get the Galeforce to proc. We are now moving on to the A tier, where a lot of the most powerful Galeforce units will reside, and there are some big surprises here. First of all, we have Legendary Roy. Now, as you may have heard, I was not a big fan of his refine, but after looking it over, it's actually a very strong Galeforce weapon, surprisingly. Roy gets access to a guaranteed special acceleration, which is massive because it means he won't have to win any checks. He has anti-guard built into his weapon. He has access to Times Pulse, as you see on the build I'm showing you right now, which allows him to actually be a powerful Galeforce unit who can come in and do some cleanup. But if you want to make full use of his Preference C skill, Human Virtue 2, you can also run something like Quicken Pulse in the seal slot or have an Infantry Pulse on the team, which will then allow Legendary Roy to also buff up your allies' attack and speed, removing that responsibility from any Dancers or any other units. Also, he has Dragon Effectiveness, which is always nice. Next up, we have another legendary unit, Legendary Sheeta, and Legendary Sheeta actually has a lot going for her as well. She has flying mobility, effective against armor and cavalry units, which is a ton of the meta. She gets an attack bonus, and she inflicts an attack penalty on the foe, which is going to be great because she's going to be needing to hit those heavy blade checks. She has Canto, so you can reposition, and if you want to use her as an engagement unit, which might not be the best, she has NFU in her Preference B skill. Overall, this makes Legendary Sheeta a pretty powerful Galeforce unit, even though she is limited by her legendary season. Following that, we have two more legendary units. We have Legendary Erica, who is actually amazing as well. She has guaranteed special acceleration. She has Canto 2. She has true damage, so she can get through some of those more tough opponents. She has no follow-up and 3 movement. Now, she is going to have to be your engagement unit, which does make it a little bit more rough. And she doesn't have any kind of special acceleration, so you're going to need to run like Quicken Pulse or some kind of pulse on your team. But even so, Legendary Erica can be an amazing Galeforce unit. In Nana Follow Suit, she also has some amazing things, such as the true damage like Erica, but she can also ignore damage reduction, stop defensive specials, which sometimes you will see in some capture balls. She has no follow-up, and she has Kanto, she has attack bonuses, and she can attack before the foe, which can sometimes be problematic if you want to use her as the engagement unit. And the other biggest problem with Nana is that she restores HP after every combat, which can make it really difficult for her to be a Wings of Mercy beacon. Even so, she's a very powerful unit and can be a great unit on Galeforce teams. Finally, we get to another beast unit, and it is Nysala, who got a massive refine. Nysala just got everything you could possibly imagine and more in his refined. He's a 3-movement flyer who has now access to true damage. He has built-in special acceleration. He has a speed bonus that makes it easier to hit those checks, and he even has no follow-up. He pretty much has everything you could possibly want and more, and can arguably be one of the best beast engagement units in the game. Now we have one of our CYL winners, Brave Celica. And Brave Celica is a really cool unit. I'm glad that they fixed her up with her refine. It really allowed her to do a lot more, so she has guaranteed special acceleration. She has an after combat times pulse, which is great. She even has access to normal times pulse or infantry pulse, and she has a brave effect in her weapon, which can allow her to just cut through enemies without having to worry about any counterattacks. Once again though, if you're using her as an engagement unit, you need to find a way to get her in that HP threshold for Wings of Mercy with something like Winter Burning. We have another legendary, but male this time. We have Legendary Xander, our newest legendary unit, who is just built to do Galeforce, but has one minor negative. He has cooldown reduction, he has no follow-up, he has guaranteed special acceleration, he has Kanto and movement, he even has damage reduction, which can help sometimes, but can also be a detriment if you're trying to use him as an engagement unit. The only real big problem with him is that he has healing built into his weapon, which makes it very difficult for him to be a Wings of Mercy beacon. Even if you are using something like Winter Burning, he can kind of heal out of the range, which can be quite annoying, but you definitely don't want to underestimate Legendary Xander. He is a powerhouse unit. Next, we have Hatari Carla, one of our seasonal Galeforcers. Even though Galeforce doesn't really take full advantage of her weapon, she does have very powerful cooldown reduction built into her weapon, which can allow her to get down to a 1 cooldown Galeforce, which means that you don't even need to run special acceleration on her anymore, and she can just pop that and just go in. So it makes her Galeforces extremely consistent, and the only thing you really have to worry about is guard. After that, we have another unit with a newer refine, Fallen Merida. This unit is built to just do some crazy stuff. She has cooldown reduction, anti-guard, she has a speed bonus, a speed penalty, and even a defense penalty depending on what you need. She has access to times pulse, and she can make a follow-up before the foe, which means that she can very easily come in with the Wings of Mercy and clean up pretty much whatever you need her to, and really activate that Galeforce as long as she's hitting the flashing blade checks, which she shouldn't have a problem with. Finally, we get to a Dimitri worth discussing, Summer Dimitri. Summer Dimitri is a powerful ult we've gotten. He has 3 movement, cooldown reduction, Kanto, attack bonuses, a brave weapon, access to atrocity, and this just makes him into an extremely powerful Galeforce unit. The biggest problem Summer Dimitri is going to run into is getting into Wings of Mercy range, as he does have a very powerful brave weapon, so a lot of times he's just going to KO enemies before he can get hit back. So that means you're much more reliant on something like Winter Burning to get him into Wings of Mercy range before combat. If not, he can fail to activate that Wings of Mercy train, which you really need in a Galeforce strategy. Here we are with another Erica. As I'm sure most of you know, I don't really need to discuss much. Brave Erica is stupidly powerful. She has anti-guard, Kanto, no follow-up, attack bonuses, cooldown reduction, 3 movement, and pretty much everything else you can want. The biggest problem with Brave Erica in my experience is that she has damage reduction built into her weapon, which actually can be problematic because she'll go into engage and she will not get below Wings of Mercy range because it just reduces too much damage. She's actually just too good sometimes. But other than that, Brave Erica is amazing and is definitely someone you should consider for your Galeforce team. Next, we have the only child in A tier, and Young Mi is an amazing Galeforcer. She has cooldown reduction, she has no follow-up, she has speed bonuses in her weapon, she can run infantry pulse, but most importantly, she has that unique phantom speed built into her weapon, which makes it extremely easy to hit those flashing blade checks. It makes her Galeforces much more consistent. Our final Choose Your Legends unit on this tier list, Brave Alm, and I'm sure you're not surprised to see him here. This unit is a complete monster. He has Dragon Effectiveness, he has 3 movement, he has a speed bonus in his weapon, he has Wind Sweep, he has no follow, he has access to Times Pulse, he has true damage, and recoil damage, which can help him get into that Wings of Mercy range much easier. Brave Alm is just a complete package and can pretty much do whatever you need him to, and he'll most times succeed. Speaking of another unit who just has everything they need for Galeforce, Seasonal Larce is here. She has cooldown reduction, speed bonus, a no follow-up, anti-guard, and infantry pulse, all just built into her one weapon. She doesn't even have a preference skill and she does all this. Pretty much all the things necessary for a Galeforce unit to succeed and really stop any type of things that can annoy you and make your Galeforce less consistent. Next, we have the only Gen 1 unit to make it this far, Azura. And Azura is by far one of my favorite Galeforce dancers, as not only can she do a Galeforce extremely well, she can dance your unit, which allows for a lot of positioning. This is mostly due to its curtains like other dancers, but the difference is Azura is much more quick, so that means she can actually get doubles in much more often, and she can even run infantry pulse if you want her to rely on the doubles, and if not, you can run times pulse to have that 2 cooldown Galeforce, which is very, very consistent. And our last unit in A tier is going to be Fallen Dimitri. Now, Fallen Dimitri, when it comes to the scoring system, was a bit off. I had to do some tweaking to really try to show off how powerful he really is. I don't think this is even fully how good Fallen Dimitri is. He's actually insane, but the scoring system really didn't work perfectly in his favor. Anyway, he has access to Times Pulse, which means his Galeforce can be full cooldown, but in all honesty, his best build is he's going to be making use of that Tempest skill and his Canto remaining. By doing this, what you can essentially do is use Winter Burney to get him into Wings of Mercy range. He can then hit something or break like a building, run all the way up, land on a trap, doesn't matter if the trap is real or not, and then you can dance him and he can just go on a Galeforcing train. The fact that the foe can't counterattack, and the fact that he's using Ninja Naginata allows him to get a ton of true damage in and a ton of hits, which makes it really easy to activate his Galeforce, and also to just destroy enemies that a lot of other units would struggle with. Fallen Dimitri is one of the best Galeforcers in the game by far, and if you need to see any proof, go ahead and check out some of Phoenix Masters videos or Elder V. We have now reached the first S tier. While A tier required 8 points to make it, S tier requires 9, so these units are just a bit better than the ones before them. First, we have Ascended Merida, and while Ascended Merida was built for Astral Vita, she's also an amazing Galeforce unit. She has cooldown reduction built into her weapon, she has access to Times Pulse, she has no follow-up, she has a speed bonus making the Flashing Blade checks easier, and she has 2 accesses the bonus cooldown, so she gets cooldown reduction on the beginning of her first turn and also after every combat. This makes it very easy to get Galeforces off, and very consistent too. Next up we have Hatari Nyla, and Hatari Nyla just takes everything Nyla did before her, but does it a little bit better. She has cooldown reduction in her weapon, anti-guard because of that beast effect, no follow-up built in, which is massive, a speed bonus to make those flashing blade checks, and most importantly glare, so she can do those gravity plays just like original Nyla can, but just a bit better with no follow-up, making sure that she can get those doubles in. And the last unit in S, which honestly could be in double S because she is just so amazing, is Summer Sheeta. Summer Sheeta is phenomenal. She has 3 movement, she has Canto, she is effective against essentially everything. She has an attack bonus for the heavy blade checks, and most importantly, she has that harmonic ability where she can give an extra action to units from Mystery of the Emblem or Heroes, which is massive because Heroes has a giant cast of characters, including a ton of mythics. The biggest problem with Summer Sheeta is a lot of times you want her to be your engagement unit, and she is a bit frail. Sometimes she can struggle to survive those counterattack hits, so a lot of times you're going to need something like Flow Guard on her so that she has not only NFU, but also she can stop those big like retaliatory like bonfires or other things that would knock her out. But overall, she's an amazing unit and definitely one of the best Galeforcers in the game. We are now in SS tier. These units require 10 points to make it here, and first of all, we have our boy Harmonic Roy, and this unit really cannot be underestimated. I know that Summer Dimitri came out and kind of overshadowed him a bit, but honestly I believe Harmonic Roy is a better Galeforce unit. First of all, he has cooldown reduction built in his weapon, he is effective against beasts and dragons, which are very prominent in Ether raids, he has Canto 2, he has an attack bonus, and he inflicts an attack penalty on the foes, making it easier to hit those blade checks that you need to. He has an attack and speed buff he can give to all non-dragon and beast allies, freeing up some skill slots on your dancers or other support units. He has anti-guard built into his weapon, and he has a harmonic skill that can give true damage for units from FE6 or FE7. All of this makes Harmonic Roy an amazing unit, and if you want to use him as an engagement unit, he even has access to Flow Force, which can stop those debuffs from his attack and speed and give him the no follow-up he needs, and I didn't even count that in his points. Harmonic Roy is absolutely insane, and a ton of people sleep on him and his ability to Galeforce extremely well. After that, we have another set of male harmonics, Harmonic Leaf, and Harmonic Leaf is phenomenal. I've been using him since the day he came out. He's one of the best Galeforcers in the game, and the best part is he is a ranged Galeforcer. If you want one of the best Wings of Mercy beacons in the game, look no farther than Harmonic Leaf. He has cooldown reduction in his weapon, he has a ranged Galeforce with only 3 cooldown, he has S-Drink if you want to use that to get some more cooldown reduction, he has 3 movement, he has Canto, and most importantly, he has a built-in Miracle as long as he's engaging or he's fighting a ranged unit. This allows him to go in and fight foes who would be able to kill him with a counterattack, and he just survives. And he puts him at 1 HP, sometimes more, and that will allow just anybody to come in and start to Galeforce train. The best part is he also has Canto, which means you can position very well after that second action, so you can make sure that your units are coming in exactly where you want them to be. This unit is phenomenal, and I think so many people don't get a chance to use him just because he's a seasonal and he's quite limited. After this, we have another harmonic unit, but this time Bridal Catria. And I don't think I have to say much about her for everyone to know how powerful she is. After all, she completely changed Aether Ray's defense when she came out, and even on offense, she's phenomenal. She has cooldown reduction, flying mobility, for a formation buff that makes it much easier to get units where you need them to be. She has an attack bonus to make it easier to hit those heavy blade checks. And most importantly, she has triangle attack, which essentially gives everyone on her team a brave effect, which is phenomenal. It allows you to just destroy units that you shouldn't be able to. And to top it all off, she even has access to a harmonic skill that gives desperation and a guaranteed follow-up attack for FE6 and FE2 units, which is great. This unit cannot be underestimated on offense, as she's just as much of a powerhouse as she is on defense. Next, we have one of the best support Galeforcers in the game, Valoria, and luckily she just got her refined, so some of the problems she had have been removed. She has a speed bonus, making it easier to hit those flashing blade checks. She can neutralize enemies' bonuses for her and her partner. She gives attack and speed +6. She has anti-guard. She has access to infantry pulse and time pulse if you want that, and also, most importantly, she has that very powerful effect where she gives special cooldown reduction to herself and her partner, giving -2. This allows a lot of units who could struggle to Galeforce exactly what they need to make their Galeforce consistent, which is exactly what you're looking for in a Galeforce team. Valoria is one of the best units in the game for Galeforce, and if you aren't using her, you should go check her out. And last but not least in SS tier is Fallen Edelgard, and I honestly expected her to make it to the very top tier, but she just barely missed it. Fallen Edelgard is a phenomenal unit. She has cooldown reduction. She has guaranteed special acceleration and armor wall if you want to use her as an engagement unit. She has an attack penalty, making it easier to hit those heavy blade checks if you need that, if you're doing the Wings of Mercy build. And she can even run a Savior build, which is really underestimated as it can protect those units if you do fail on a Galeforce or you just can't kill everything. But the biggest thing has to be her third action. Fallen Edelgard is one of 3 units, all Edelgard, which can have 3 actions, and this is just beyond powerful. It allows her to just go in and wipe out the enemy team all by herself, which is insane. And the best part is, unlike Legendary Edelgard, Fallen Edelgard doesn't struggle to get deep in. You can run that Wings of Mercy build with Heavy Blade, and then she can just come in and teleport and start terrorizing the enemy team. But if you want to use her as an engagement unit, she can also do that extremely well. This unit is just one of the best Galeforcers in the game, and if you would have shown me that she was only in SS tier last year, I wouldn't have believed you. But since the release of Fallen Edelgard, we have gotten 3 units that have just taken Galeforce to an entirely new level. So let's head over to the SSS tier, the best Galeforce units in the entire game. Here we are, the 3 best Galeforcers in the game. These units all scored 11 or 12 points and are just complete monsters who can completely change how you Galeforce. Let's start off with our free-to-play queen, Ashe. Ashe is just a phenomenal unit. I cannot believe they gave her away for free because she is just so freaking powerful. She has cooldown reduction in her weapon. She has attack bonus. She inflicts an attack penalty on the foe. She has a guaranteed follow-up attack. She has anti-guard because of her beast transformation. Not only that, she has teleport support from her preference C skill that also has joint drive attack built into it. This just makes Ashe phenomenal. Not only is she very consistent with her Galeforces, that teleportation makes it so that it's really easy to get your Galeforce units wherever they need to be, and also giving that joint drive attack to make those heavy blade checks even easier. Ashe really is the full package, and if you have a chance to use her in Aether Raids as a Galeforce unit, I could not recommend it more. Next up, we have Summer Edelgard. Edelgard coming in with 12 points. Summer Edelgard is one of our newest units, and she is just insane. If you haven't gotten a chance to use her or seen any of her clear videos, she can just do about everything. She has cooldown reduction built into her weapon, she has an attack bonus, she inflicts an attack penalty, she has a brave weapon, she has assault troop teleportation, and she has a third action, which just makes her the full package. She can be an amazing engagement unit using a Fury build that can get her down into Wings of Mercy range very consistently and allow other people to teleport in, or you can even do something called hit and run Galeforce, something newer where you rely on the safety fence, but you have Summer Edelgard go in, kill 1 or 2 units, then assault troop out with a pivot. It makes Galeforce stupidly easy and ridiculously powerful. And honestly, Summer Edelgard might be the best Galeforcer in the game, though I will give it to 1 unit above her. That's right, it is the Queen of Galeforce, the Galeforce god herself, Thor. Now Thor came out, and when I saw her, I just couldn't believe it. This unit is built to Galeforce. She has cooldown reduction built into her weapon. She has flying mobility. She's a mythic unit, which means she's not even taking up a team slot most of the time. She has a guaranteed follow-up attack. She has guaranteed special acceleration for herself and for her allies. I cannot understate how powerful this effect is and how consistent it can make your Galeforce teams. Thor is just beyond amazing. And the coolest thing is she can act as an engagement unit with the Brace and Attack Speed Desperation build with Winter Bernie, or you can even use her with the Wings of Mercy build and have her come in after your engagement has already happened. Either way, she's amazing no matter where she's at. In my opinion, the best Galeforce unit in the game. Worldbreaker is just stupidly powerful and is one of the reasons that Galeforce has taken over the meta. And with that, my Galeforce tier list is complete. 116 heroes ranked from SSS all the way down to E tier. Do you agree with my placings, or would you put some heroes in different tiers? Was there a unit I forgot? I'm sure there was. I'd love to hear your opinions, and also which Galeforce unit is your favorite. Also, if you have any questions about Galeforce teams, make sure to drop a question down below, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe. It helps to destroy the evil that is the YouTube algorithm, and helps my channel grow. This has been Oblivion, and I'll catch you all later with more Fire Emblem heroes.